What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Let's Talk Tottenham. Usually I do one news digest video a week, but obviously with today's news coming out about Eric Dier and his suspension, I thought that we can't really miss anything like this, and they have actually provided the document. And so we're going to just walk through some of that and some of the key points that I think are important to what transpired, how the FA ruled, what's happened, and also going to talk just very briefly at the very end about some of the responses that we've seen from different people. So just to start, we're going to look at Twitter account from the FA spokesperson. They say Eric Dier has been suspended for 4 matches with immediate effect, fined 40,000, and warned as to his future conduct following a breach of FA Rule E3. So I want to go through and kind of break down some of the things that I noticed, and we're going to just start right up at the top and see what they have to say. So here's what they wrote. Let's just kind of start at the introduction. Looking at numbers 1 and 2 here, the Regulatory Commission, known as the Commission, was appointed to hear and determine proceedings brought against Eric Dier. Rule E3 in part provides as follows: a participant shall at all times act in the best interests of the game and shall not act in any manner which is improper or brings the game into disrepute or use anyone or any combination of violent conduct, serious foul play, threatening, abusive, indecent, or insulting words or behavior. So that is kind of the rule or what he's being charged with. We continue on in 3. Eric Dier was charged with misconduct pursuant to Rule E3 in respect of an incident which occurred against Norwich. And the FA's charge letter stated that Eric Dier's conduct during the match had been improper and or threatening. Eric Dier partially admitted the charge, accepting that his conduct had been improper, but that it had not been, but not that it had been threatening. And I think this is very important, and we're going to see that as we walk through some of this. He makes the statement that it was not threatening, although it was improper. We're going to see by the end of this, the FA obviously decides against him. So looking at some of the background of what's going on here, just want to start with number 7, because I think it kind of sums up what happened. It says, after the final whistle, Eric Dier became aware of a spectator abusing him. We were provided with 9 different clips of footage of the incident, 6 ripped from social media and 3 provided by the club. The spectator's conduct is captured clearly on one particular one from Tottenham, and there was no dispute that his abuse was aimed directly at Eric Dier. These clips, and they say when the spectator was standing with Patrick Dier, that's Eric's brother, standing almost directly behind him 2 rows back. At 25 seconds, the spectator is shown shouting, gesturing rudely with his right hand towards the pitch. There is no sound, but it is patently obvious that he was shouting abuse. He continued gesturing, including with his middle finger. The soundless footage is consistent with what Patrick Dier said in his witness statement. And I'm not going to read those words because I'm not sure what would happen with YouTube, but he also gestured aggressively towards Eric Dier. Now, I want to move down here to numbers 11 and 12 because I think they're helpful as well. Eric Dier was interviewed by police but not charged with any offense relating to his conduct. During his police interview, we were told that Eric Dier was informed that the spectator had expressed remorse for his conduct during his own interview under caution. He also was said by police to have told them that he hadn't felt threatened by Eric Dier's behavior during the incident. Number 12, on March 19th, police confirmed that no further action would be taken against Eric Dier, his brother, or the spectator. Number 14, Eric Dier's solicitor in the criminal proceedings, Ellen Pert, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, provided a witness statement in which she stated that she had been informed by an officer that the police decision and the spectator's statement were likely to be very helpful to Eric Dier in these proceedings. It was said the MG3 explained that the lack of threatening behavior was one of the deciding factors in the decision to take no further action against Eric Dier, and the spectator said in his statement that he was being an idiot, was frustrated and annoyed with the result of the match, and had not felt threatened by Eric Dier. Now, this is huge to understand what's being charged against him, because the FA is basically going to disregard the spectator's statement. And it's just interesting. I don't know how things work in England, but that the FA is going to go against the police findings. And I just wonder, how that works. So we're going to look at the FA's case, starting with 21. It says this: the FA written submissions dated to May 28th, 2020 carefully analyzed the video footage. And in summary, the FA did not accept that Eric Dier's sole intention was to protect his brother. This is the kind of hinge point, that they don't think that Eric was just trying to protect his brother. They think he was trying to threaten the spectator. It submitted that viewed objectively, his actions amounted to effectively chasing the spectator through the stands in such circumstances that it was, on the balance of probabilities, quote unquote, clearly threatening. On the balance of probabilities. Also, one thing that I continue to find myself wondering is, what is the definition of objectively? We're going to see how they objectively view Eric Dier's actions and how they objectively view the spectator's actions. And to me, it seems like they objectively view them differently. Now, I want to acknowledge that Eric Dier, being a professional football player, being someone of somewhat of a celebrity in the sense that he is well known, he's on the England national team, etc., that there is a difference in how people are going to react towards a spectator and how they're going to react towards Eric Dier, generally speaking. And they're going to talk about that. But I think from what I'm reading, it just seems like they are missing, objectively, that Eric Dier's brother was involved. And so, anyway, we'll continue reading in number 23 here and 24, because these are very important to understanding. So on sanction, Mr. Elegab, sorry again for that name, submitted that the occurrence of a highly experienced player entering the stands and pursuing a civilian spectator in a threatening manner, again, that seems to be judged already. They have not listened to the case, but this is the FA's case. So in a threatening manner is conduct that behooves a sanction of at least an immediate 5-match suspension. 24. If he was sanctioned on the basis of his conduct, on the basis that his conduct was improper but not threatening, then this matter is so serious that the very minimum sanction that ought to be imposed on an improper basis is an immediate 3-match suspension. So you can see, kind of based on this, and we'll get to this later, but they go in the middle. They go with a 4-match ban. So this is the FA's case, and now we're going to take a look at Eric Dier's case. So starting with number 25, Eric Dier's reply was accompanied by a letter from the club, witness statements from Eric, Patrick, Jeremy, his father, Ellen Pert, all dated to May 22nd, and an unsolicited character reference from Gareth Southgate, OBE England manager, and written submissions dated to May 22nd as well. Now, here's what it says in number 26. In summary, Mr. Dier accepts that his actions amount to a breach of the rule on the basis that those actions were improper. However, Mr. Dier denies that his actions were threatening. Mr. Dier therefore admits the first aspect of the charge in respect of improper conduct, but denies the second part of the charge in respect of threatening behavior. This is so important, and I want to refer back to number 11, because not only is this his personal view or behavior, the spectator actually made similar statements. When the spectator was talked to by the police. He expressed remorse for his conduct during his own interview under caution. He also was said by police to have told them that he hadn't felt threatened by Eric Dier's behavior during the incident. I think it's important for us to keep that in mind because the parties involved are both saying that they didn't feel like it was threatening. The police are saying they didn't feel like it was threatening. And so here we have this statement from the FA that is saying that it is. So continuing on, we'll go down here to number 28. Eric Dier saw Patrick Dier standing 2 rows behind the spectator. Looking up at Patrick Dier, who was standing immediately behind the spectator, may have caused the latter to wrongly believe that Eric Dier was looking at him. They made eye contact. Seconds before, Patrick grabbed the spectator. The spectator spread his arms as if goading Eric to confront him. Eric saw his brother move towards the spectator. He saw the other 2 men move towards them, and Eric was concerned for his brother, who he believed was, quote-unquote, in trouble. And so he gives a statement, and this is what Eric said. At that point, I instinctively jumped over the barrier and began climbing the rows of seats towards Patrick and the 3 men. All that was going through my head was that I must protect Patrick. In hindsight, I feel even more responsible for his safety. I think that's key. He was thinking of his brother. He had gone to the game to support me, and he had become upset by the personal abuse being yelled at me, and that had led him into this situation. He continued, as I climbed the steps, I wasn't aware of any other supporters. I hadn't really come very close to anyone as the stands had been emptying, and I didn't engage with anyone. My mind was just set on reaching Patrick. As I approached, the grappling between Patrick and the 3 men stopped. I saw everyone move towards the exit. In the confusion that followed, I also headed towards the exit. I had lost sight of Patrick, but had assumed he was ahead of me. I finally saw him again near the exit, but I was stopped by other supporters and stewards. All I wanted was to be reunited with Patrick and remove him from the situation. I think that without context, what happens in front of the exit can be misinterpreted. That's key, without context. I don't know if that means objectively, but I think that's where the ban comes from. There was at no point any altercation with any steward or fan. The stewards did not realize that Patrick was my brother and can be seen trying to prevent us from getting to each other. You can hear me on some of the video footage explaining that he is my brother and pleading that we be allowed to come together. So I want to read number 34. What happened thereafter was crucial. At a certain point in the video, the spectator is shown moving along a road towards the exit. Patrick is 7 or so rows below and across from him. The spectator put both hands up and waved them, palms out, towards Eric. He's quite obviously standing alone. Patrick is nowhere near him. This is clearly an attempt by him to stop Eric from advancing towards him. Eric looked and raised his right arm towards the spectator. As he did so, Eric changed his direction, turning to his right and in the direction of the spectator. This was the fork in the road for Eric. To his left was his brother. To his right was the spectator who was retreating, and he went to the right. Now, I believe this is the video. I could be wrong, but I think this is an example of the video that they were talking about. I want to play this. So you can see him kind of shouting, and now he's trying to push through, and he goes to the right, I believe, towards the exit, and he's got to be stopped again. And there's the arm raised right there. And so I think this is what they're talking about in terms of the fork in the road. You can read what Patrick Dier said in number 43, and then in number 45 and number 46, I think this is important. We also considered the statement from Eric Dier's father, Jeremy Dier, which spoke of his and his family's experiences when attending matches. And then they also had testimony from Gareth Southgate, who gave spoke in glowing terms of Eric Dier's maturity, leadership qualities, and his close family ties. He is popular with the management and his fellow professionals. Everything we saw from Eric Dier, including the way he spoke, supported Mr. Southgate's opinion. So, man, when I read that, I think, if Eric Dier is struggling to handle such a situation, imagine someone else. Imagine someone who does not have that maturity, that does not have that leadership, that does not have the wherewithal. I don't No, but it certainly seems like that should have had maybe a little bit more. 4 games feels long to me. I'm just showing my cards. So we'll go down to the determination, and number 50. They said that the parties agreed, as do we, that such requires an objective assessment of his behavior. This is the most important part. As the parties agreed, it is our objective determination of how the reasonable bystander would have perceived Eric Dier's conduct. Now, reasonable bystander. Who's that guy or who's that girl? You know, is this a person that doesn't know Eric Dier? Is that a person that doesn't know the bystander? Is this a person that doesn't understand that a game was just played? You know, what are they? A reasonable bystander, I would assume they are assuming this hypothetical person knows all of those elements. They'll probably not assume that they know that this was Eric Dier's brother, because even Eric said that the stewards didn't know this, and so he had to kind of explain that he was his brother. And so when applying the, here it is, reasonable bystander test, it includes reaction of supporters and any view expressed by the spectator. The latter is relevant, but not dispositive. And I think that is key, because what happens next in this number 51 is huge. In relation to the account the spectator gave police, we accept the officer reported it accurately to Eric Dier's solicitor in the criminal proceedings, who faithfully recorded that in her witness statement. We proceed on that basis. The weight to be given it is a different matter. And so here's where we see some differences. Having given it careful thought, we did not accept that to genuinely or accurately reflect the spectator's state of mind. Firstly, it is inconsistent with the footage, which shows him leaving quickly once he saw Eric advancing towards him. We agree he may have done so out of A, embarrassment at his own shameful conduct, and or to avoid the humiliation of a public confrontation. This is changing what he said of himself. I think it is a good exercise in objectively looking at this, to think through maybe the power dynamics, the crowd dynamics, and what's going on, and why he might have said something. But why not let him speak for himself? Why not ask the spectator, are you doing this out of fear, or are you afraid of what the crowd might do? Instead, they're making this decision for him. They are changing what he said on his behalf. And man, you know, we'll continue reading, but that seems strong. So I'm going to skip down here to 54. When being questioned by the police, he had every reason to downplay the incident, protect his own position, to minimize his own appalling conduct, to help Eric Dier through loyalty to the club, and or because he felt responsible for the situation he and that player found themselves in. So again, all reasonable things to consider, but I would want to hear that from the spectator, and to have made that decision for the spectator seems strong. So anyway, I want to continue down to the sanction. They considered in number 57 some of the other cases. They were not helpful. And as we continue down to number 60, they talk about the aggravating factors, and then later they'll talk about some of the mitigating factors. So here's the aggravating ones. The stand was heavily populated. Eric traveled an appreciable distance for a not insignificant period of time trying to reach the spectator. Now, was the reasonable time of reaching the spectator once he got to his brother and then the few seconds after? Is that what they're talking about? Or are they saying that he was always going after the spectator from the moment that he went into the stands? I think that that's debatable. He pursued the spectator after he had desisted and moved away. True. He pursued the spectator when he knew he posed no threat to his brother. Yes, I think you can see that. Eric Dier's actions caused some pushing and shoving in the stands. His actions resulted in a melee that at the entrance of exit 103. And lastly, he is a high-profile footballer whose conduct was witnessed by many within the ground and countless others more widely. So those are the aggravating factors. And let's scroll down here to some of the mitigating factors in number 64. We accept that he was provoked by the spectator's personal abuse toward him. We agree that these are totally abhorrent abuse. Having questioned him closely, we accept that Eric would not have entered the stands but for his genuine concern for his brother, and he did not intend to assault the spectator. So, continuing on. In fact, no person was assaulted or, so far as we know, injured in consequence. His apology we accept as genuine. He has no previous misconduct offense on his disciplinary record and has never been sent off. And this again goes to what Gareth Southgate was saying. This is, objectively speaking, I think you have to consider some of those things. This is a player of good reputation, who's mature, who's a leader. And if he is having that kind of a reaction, it must have been an offensive issue, and it must have been truly an issue of protection for his brother. The impressive, unsolicited testimonial from Mr. Southgate. Further, Eric struck us as an intelligent, thoughtful, and remorseful individual. We accept this was wholly out of character and will not be repeated. That's an interesting way of putting it, that this incident was out of character and will not be repeated. Interesting. Just speaking from on my own, it seems like his character is being revealed, that he cares for his brother. And he was trying to protect his brother. I think that what they're saying, maybe what they're talking about specifically, was his advancement towards the spectator, even after he saw that his brother was safe. And that I could agree was probably wholly out of his character. And then they cite some other relevant circumstances. So we go down to number 71. He has a right to appeal this, but from what we've heard today from others, that's not going to happen, and we've already talked about what the sanctions will be. Now, Jose had a press conference earlier in which he said that he did not want to comment about it at all because he did not want to get in trouble. He reminded me of, like a dad or something like that, that's like, dude, I just don't want to even say anything. We're in public right now. I'm not going to say anything. And Charlie Eclair tweeted, Mourinho on Dier ban, no reaction. I prefer no reaction. I'm not going to answer. If I answer, I'm going to be in trouble, and I do not want to be. So I have no comments on that. Says he's spoken about it enough and joked. It was kind of funny. He joked that a couple of times that this happened 6 months or 2 years ago. He adds that he doesn't think the Spurs will appeal, partly because of the risk of the ban being extended. Also says few appeals are successful. And then they go to talk about the North London Derby later. Now, I wanted to talk very briefly about a comment that was made by VCon1. And he says, no point in us fans spewing over this. He was lucky it was only 4 games. Could have been much worse. No matter how understandable a reaction or how much of a hero you consider him for protecting his brother, he crossed a line. He will have to take his medicine. If a fan had charged, I think this is an important point. If a fan had charged onto the pitch because a player had made a bad tackle on his brother, the fan would be banned for life. Hypothetically speaking, of course, but you all know what's right. And I think this is huge in terms of our understanding of what happened and how Dier responded. I certainly have a lot of sympathy. I think of my own brother, and I would want to protect my family just as much as anyone else would want to protect their kin. And so you have to maybe have some sympathy, but at the same time, crossing that line is dangerous and not acceptable. You would hope that there were other ways of mitigating those circumstances in terms of when players are abused verbally and things like that. And I think this just goes back to, it's sad. It's just really sad that this happened between a fan and a player. This is not an away fan. This is a supporter of Tottenham. And so I think it just gives us some pause to remember that this is a game, and it's not the world, and it's certainly not the end of the world when the team does poorly, and sometimes that gets lost in the emotions of the game, and so while I am slightly disappointed, I think. I mean, I don't know, who am I? But I would think that maybe 1 or 2 games. People have talked about other players, grabbing throats or stepping and things like that on the field. But I think that this is different. This is not happening on the field, although I do think they should receive bans for those actions. This is that, if it was television, it's breaking the fourth wall in a way that is dangerous. You do not want to see it happen. And you just have so much concern for everyone involved. So disappointing. It's going to definitely be a challenge for Jose and the team to figure out how to move on in these next 4 games without Eric, as he's been a staple since he came back. And I almost wonder if Jose kind of had a feeling this was going to happen, and so he had him playing as much as possible beforehand to kind of show good faith, but also to realize that he might not be able to play for a few games. So anyway, that's what happened today. Crazy stuff. And we've got a game coming up against Everton. Hopefully Spurs can get 3 points and continue to put pressure on other teams to perform. And then we've got a big London derby coming up, and I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, thanks for being here. Please put in the comments below what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think that this was too harsh? Do you think it was not strong enough? When you think about player safety, when you think about fan safety, what are the elements or things that you think are the hinge point? And certainly, do you agree with the FA? So thank you so much for watching. Please like my video or subscribe if you liked what you saw today, and if you like things like this. And as ever, it was great talking with you.